Namaste. I would like to welcome you all for today's session. Today we'll be dealing about the principles of pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So before that, moving on to an introduction on what is pharmacology. So pharmacology is the science of drugs. In Greek, pharmakon refers to drug or logos, and logos refers to discourse in. So in a broad sense, it deals with the interaction of exogenously administered chemical molecules or any single chemical substance which can produce a biological response is a drug. So it encompasses all aspects of knowledge about drugs, but most importantly, those that are relevant to the effective and safe use for medicinal purposes. So there are two main divisions of pharmacology and that are pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics, in Greek, dynamis refers to power. So pharmacodynamics is mainly concerned about what the drug does to the body. So this includes effects of the drug and their mechanism of action at organ system, subcellular, macromolecular level. Moving in Greek, kinesis refers to movement. So it is mainly concerned about what the body does to the drug. So this refers to the movement of drug in and alteration of the drug by the body, and it includes absorption, distribution, binding, localization, storage, biotransformation and excretion of the drug. So one such example of quoting pharmacokinetics is paracetamol. Paracetamol is rapidly and almost completely absorbed orally, attaining a peak blood level at 30 to 60 and with 25% bound to plasma proteins uniformly distributed in the body, that is volume of distribution, and extensively metabolized in the liver and sulfate conjugation into inactive metabolites which are then excreted in urine, and it has a plasma half-life, that is T half, of 2 to 3 hours and a clearance value of 5 ml per kg per minute. So drug refers to a single active chemical entity which is present in a medicine that is used for diagnosis, prevention, treatment. So this disease oriented definition of drug does not include contraceptives or use of drugs for the improvement of health. So the WHO in 1966 has given a more comprehensive definition, that is, drug is any substance or product that is used or is intended to be used to modify or explore physiological systems or pathological states for the benefit of the recipient. So now we will be dealing in detail about pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. Pharmacokinetics is the quantitative study of drug movement in, through and out of the body. The intensity of response is related to the concentration of the drug at the site of action, which in turn is dependent on its pharmacokinetic properties. Pharmacokinetic concentrations therefore determine concentration, dose, latency of onset, time of peak action, duration of action, and frequency of administration of a drug. Hence, the intensity of drug response is dependent on concentration at the site is determined by pharmacokinetic principles. So, some of the attributes of pharmacokinetics are: pharmacokinetic concentration determines the route of administration, dose, latency of onset, time of peak action, duration of action, and then the frequency of drug administration. Includes membrane transport, absorption, distribution, metabolism or biotransformation, and excretion. So what is a biological membrane? This is a bilayer of phospholipid and cholesterol. The polar group of these are oriented at the two surfaces, and the non-polar hydrocarbon chains are embedded in the matrix to form a continuous sheet. This imparts high electrical resistance and relative impermeability to the membrane. Extrinsic and intrinsic protein molecules are absorbed on the lipid bilayer, and the glycoproteins or glycolipids are formed on the surface by attachment to polymeric sugars, amino sugars, or sialic acids. The specific lipid and protein composition of different membranes according to the cell or the organelle type. The proteins are able to freely float through the membrane, associate and organize, or vice versa. So some of the intrinsic ones through the full thickness of the membrane surrounds this fine aqueous pores. Paracellular spaces or channels also exist between certain epithelial or endothelial cells. So the other proteins have enzymatic carrier, receptor, or signal transduction properties. Lipid molecules are also capable of lateral movement. Thus, biological membranes are highly dynamic structures. So these drugs are transported across the membrane by passive diffusion and filtration and specialized transport. So, transportation across biological membrane occurs through passive diffusion and filtration, and through specialized transport, that is carrier transport, which may be through active transport or facilitated. The second one is through endocytosis. So moving on to the first one, that is passive diffusion. The drug diffuses across the membrane in the direction of its concentration gradient, no active role in the process. This is the most important mechanism for majority of drugs. Drugs are foreign substances or xenobiotics, and specialized mechanisms are developed by the body primarily for normal metabolites. So lipid soluble drugs diffuse by dissolving in the rate of transport being proportional to the lipid water partition coefficient of the drug. A more lipid soluble drug attains higher concentration in the molecule and diffuses quickly. Also, greater the difference in the concentration of the drug on the two sides of the membrane, faster is its diffusion. Hence, diffusion usually happens in the direction of its concentration gradient, and there is no active role of membranes. Transport is directly proportional to the lipid water partition coefficient of the drug, and a more lipid soluble drug will diffuse quickly. The concentration on two sides of the membrane, faster will be the diffusion. Some of the examples are atropine, ephedrine, phenobarbital, etc. So what's the role of pH in this? Most drugs are weak electrolytes, that is, their ionization is pH dependent. So absorption of the drug will happen at different part of the GIT, and it can happen by ion trapping, and high concentration of basic drugs happens in plasma, and the excretion of drug is also dependent on the pH, and the transport of lipid soluble non-electrolyte drug is also pH independent. So some of the implications of this consideration are: acidic drugs, example aspirin, are largely unionized at acid gastric pH and are absorbed from stomach, while bases such as atropine are largely only when they reach the intestines. So hence we can say that acidic drugs are absorbed at from stomach, whereas bases are absorbed from the level of when they reach the intestines. The unionized form of acidic drugs, which crosses the surface membrane of gastric mucosal cell, reverts to the ionized form within the cell, and then only slowly passes through the extracellular fluid. So this is what is called as ion trapping. Electrolyte crossing a membrane to encounter a pH from which it is not able to escape easily. So this may contribute to cell damage and caused by aspirin. So basic drugs attain higher concentration intracellularly. Acidic drugs are ionized more in urine, so they don't back diffuse in the kidney tubules and are excreted faster. So accordingly, the basic drugs are excreted faster if the urine is acidified. Non-electrolytes, example ethanol, diethyl ether, etc., readily crosses biological membrane and their transport is pH independent. Moving on to the concept of filtration. So filtration is the passage of drugs through aqueous pores in the membrane or through paracellular. So this can be accelerated if hydrodynamic flow of the solvent is occurring under hydrostatic or osmotic pressure gradient. Example, across most capillaries including glomeruli. Lipid insoluble drugs across biological membranes by filtration if their molecular size is smaller than the diameter of the pores. So majority of the cells, that is in intestinal mucosa, RBC, etc., have very small pores, and the drugs with molecular weight greater than 100 or 200 are not able to penetrate. However, capillaries, except those in brain, have large paracellular space, and most drugs, even albumin, can filter through these. As such, diffusion of drugs across the capillaries is dependent on the rate of blood flow through them rather than on the lipids of the drug or pH of the medium. Hence, passage of drug through aqueous pores in the membrane of paracellular space is what's happening in filtration, and it is facilitated by the hydrostatic or osmotic pressure gradient, and it is dependent on the pore size and the molecular weight of the drug, and it is determined by the rate of salinity, and it is independent of the pH of the medium and lipid solubility of the drug. So moving on to specialized transport. So this can be by carrier method like carrier mediated or by pinocytosis. So moving on to carrier transport. All cell membranes express a host of transmembrane proteins which serve as carriers or transports for physiologically important ions across the membrane. So at some sites, certain transporters also translocate biotics, including drugs and their metabolites. In contrast to channels, which open for a finite time and allow passage of specific ions, transporters combine transiently with their substrate, which can be ion or an organic compound, and undergo a conformational change carrying the substrate to the other side of the membrane, where the substrate disassociates and the transporter returns back to its original state. So, in carrier transport, proteins act as the carriers or transporters, and the transport is specific for the substrate, saturable, and it is competitively inhibited by the analogues, and it's mainly of two types on the basis of energy requirement, that is facilitated diffusion. So, as I mentioned before, in this, the transporters belonging to the superfamily of solute carriers, that is SLC transporters, operates passively without needing energy and translocates the substrate in the direction of its electrochemical gradient. that is from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration. So it merely facilitates the permeation of a poorly diffusible substrate. Example, the entry of a glucose into a muscle and fat cells by glucose transporter GLUT4. So, in contrast to the channels which open for a finite time and allow the passage of specific ions, transporters combine transiently with other substrate, as I mentioned earlier, that is an ion or an organic compound. It may undergo a conformational change carrying the substrate to the other side of the membrane, where the substrate dissociates and the transporter returns back to its original state. So, carrier transport is specific for the substrate or the type of substrate, example an organic anion, and it is saturable, competitively inhibited by analogues which utilize the same transporter and is much slower than the flux through the channels. So, depending on the requirement of energy, carrier transport is of two types, that is, as mentioned earlier, facilitated diffusion, active transport. It's mainly based on the diffusion through the lipid layer and diffusion through channels and facilitated transport. So, in diffusion through the lipid layer, lipid soluble molecules such as oxygen, carbon dioxide diffuses freely through the plasma membrane. And in diffusion through the channels, some polar and charged molecules diffuse through protein channels. Water is a typical example. And in case of facilitated diffusion, the certain molecules by triggering a change in the protein shape and transports the molecule across the membrane. Glucose typically enters cell by this method. So, transporter belonging to the superfamily of solute carrier, as I mentioned earlier, that is SLC transporter, operates passively. That is, here energy is not needed and translocates the substrate in the direction of its electrochemical gradient, that is from higher to lower concentration. It merely facilitates permeation of a poorly diffusible substrate, example the entry of glucose into the muscle and fat cells by glucose transporter GLUT4. And again, we have active transport also. So, in active transport, it requires energy and it is inhibited by metabolic poisons and electrochemical gradient, that is from low to high, resulting in selective accumulation of the substance on one side of the membrane. So, drugs related to normal metabolites can utilize the transport process meant for these. So, one such example is that of levodopa and methyl-dopa, which are actively absorbed from the gut by the aromatic amino acid transporter. So, in addition, the body has developed some relatively non-selective transporters. So, active transport can be primary or driving force. So, in primary active transport, energy is obtained directly by the hydrolysis of ATP. Transporters belong to a superfamily of ATP binding cassets, which are commonly called as ABC transporters, whose intercellular loops have ATPase activity. They mediate only efflux of the solute from the cytoplasm either to the intracellular organelle, which can be an endoplasmic reticulum or mitochondria, etc. And in case of a secondary active transport, in this type of active transport, it's affected by another set of SLC transporters. The energy to pump one solute is derived from the downhill movement of another solute, which is so when the concentration gradient are such that both the solutes move in the same direction, it is called as symport or co-transport, but when they move in an opposite direction, it is termed as antiport or exchange transport. So metabolic energy from the hydrolysis of ATP is spent in maintaining high transmembrane electrochemical gradient of the second solute. The SLC transporters mediate both uptake and efflux of drug metabolites. So as indicated earlier, carrier transport, that is both facilitated diffusion and active transport, is saturable, and the maximal rate of transport is dependent on the density of transporter in a particular membrane, and it is rate constant, that is the substrate concentration at which the rate of transport is half maximal is governed by its affinity for the substrate. Genetic polymorphism can alter both the density and affinity of the transporter protein for different substrate, and thus it affects the pharmacokinetics of the drug. Moreover, tissue-specific drug distribution can occur due to the presence of specific transporters in certain cells. So moving on to endocytosis. Endocytosis is the exogenous molecules or complex inside plasma membrane derived vesicles. So it's mainly of two types, that is pinocytosis and pinocytosis is the process of transport across the cell in particular or in particulate form by the formation of vesicles. So this is applicable to the proteins and other big molecules and contributes very little to the transport of most, like vitamin B12, which is absorbed from the gut after binding to intrinsic factor, which is commonly a protein. So we will be continuing with the concept of absorption in our next session. So the base reference for this slide is from Medical Pharmacology by K.D. Tripathi. Thank you for your patient listening.